before the first German armored columns could fully exploit the breakthrough in the Ardennes. A light American airborne division had already taken possession of the most important road junction in the sector. When a formal demand for surrender arrived under a white flag, the American reply was a single word. The town stayed in American hands. That word was nuts. The place was Bastogne. The division was the 101st Airborne. The question is not whether the stand mattered. The road net that German operational plans required remained closed to them. The question is why a surrounded, outnumbered, undersupplied force under extreme cold continued to function when doctrine said it should begin to come apart. The answer did not begin in December 1944. In the early hours of the 6th of June 1944, American paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division dropped into Normandy. Many landed far from their intended zones. Small groups formed under junior leaders and began fighting immediately. Among the first Germans to interrogate captured pathfinders was Major Friedrich August Freiherr von der Heydt, commander of the 6th Fallschirmjäger Regiment. The presence of elite American airborne divisions told him this was not a raid, it was the main invasion. In the days that followed, the same division fought for the town of Carentan, the critical link between Utah and Omaha beaches. On the 13th of June, the newly arrived 17th SS Panzergrenadier Division Guts von Berlichingen, supported by remnants of von der Heydt's regiment, launched a determined counterattack. The assault drove close to the town. It was stopped by the paratroopers and by the timely arrival of American armor from the 2nd Armored Division. Carentan remained in American hands. German units that had expected to brush aside or rapidly degrade American infantry found themselves in a prolonged fight against men who continued to hold ground and, when opportunity offered, to push back, a pattern repeated in the Netherlands. During Operation Market Garden, the 101st secured the corridor around Eindhoven and held it under repeated German attacks, including actions against SS formations. The division spent more than 2 months in continuous or near-continuous combat before being withdrawn to rest and refit in France. By mid-December 1944, the 101st was that resting force. On the 17th of December, it was alerted. The next day, the division was loaded onto trucks and driven toward the Ardennes. It reached Bastogne on the 19th of December, only hours ahead of the leading German elements. Combat Command B of the 10th Armored Division and other attachments were already in the area. The airborne infantry did not fight alone. By the 20th of December, the town was surrounded. German forces, primarily the 26th Volksgrenadier Division, elements of Panzer Lehr and the 2nd Panzer Division, pressed the perimeter from multiple directions. Artillery fell. Ammunition and medical supplies ran short. The weather was bitterly cold. The 101st and its attachments shifted limited armor and artillery fire from threat to threat, using interior lines. In places they counterattacked. On the 22nd of December, 4 Germans under a white flag delivered a formal ultimatum. The American forces in Bastogne were encircled by strong armored units. Honorable surrender was demanded to avoid total annihilation. Brigadier General Anthony McAuliffe, acting commander in Taylor's absence, received the message. After a brief discussion with his staff, he wrote a one-word reply: "Nuts." The German officers required a translation. When they understood the meaning, the exchange ended. The attacks continued. The division did not collapse. Fair resupply eventually reached the perimeter. On the 26th of December, elements of the 4th Armored Division of Patton's 3rd Army broke through and opened a corridor. The siege was over. Fighting in the sector continued into January, and at points the 101st came into direct contact with Waffen-SS formations, including elements of the 1st SS Panzer Division. The division was finally withdrawn in mid-January. Its casualties for the Bastogne operation were heavy, but lower than the legend sometimes claims. The presidential unit citation followed. What German officers observed across these fights was not mystical invincibility. It was a consistent pattern. Volunteer paratroopers selected for physical and mental toughness, trained to operate in small groups without continuous higher direction or guaranteed supply, treated isolation and shortage as conditions to be managed rather than reasons to stop. Abandonment of a position was not a routine tactical option in the same way it was for many conventional units. That attitude had limits. The 101st needed the armor, tank destroyers, and artillery that fought with it at Bastogne. It suffered significant losses in every campaign. It was not alone and it was not unbeatable. Yet the cumulative effect was real, from the hedgerows around Carentan to the frozen perimeter at Bastogne. German units, including SS formations that met them, encountered a force whose cohesion under pressure did not degrade on the expected schedule. After-action frustration appears in German accounts. The precise language of later popular retellings is not always matched by surviving primary documents, but the professional difficulty is documented. The opening moment at Bastogne was therefore not an isolated act of will. It was the visible result of selection, training, and successive tests under the most extreme conditions the division had faced. A light airborne force had been placed astride a road net the German offensive required. When the demand for surrender came, the reply was one word: the junction stayed closed. That is what the record supports.